Well, please give us what you've done so far as to the study that we got, because I don't think everybody went to the school board meeting that this was first presented.
I have a whole timeline that I'll spare you that I could go through on this to talk about the whole background and leading up to today. But just to let you know, July 13th, the school board.
Hello, this is Lake County calling for Ms. Kemp and Mr. Tyndale.
Okay, one moment.
Went ahead and finalized, and I think you were at an earlier meeting, Mr. Bennett, where the impact fee study essentially has remained the same, but on the 13th, they went ahead and passed it with a couple of footnotes and some other little amendments, if you will, to the study.
It was reviewed again by the school board?
That is correct.
And it passed? Okay.
And it passed. And then, so our chair sent a letter to Mr. Connor, Commissioner Connor.
Packet, I believe.
Yes, on the 14th of July, saying that we were forwarding the study to him and for this to go through the county's process. Should any of you not have but want a printed copy of the study, we have that here. And
if you do not have a copy of the study, we're going to be probably going through this. Are we going to go through this page by page?
Yeah,
I thought we did already.
just a minute, Nelson. Just a minute, Nelson. That'll probably be up to you all, how you all want to go through this.
We're not going to have a formal presentation like the school board got on page by page, flip through this. Okay.
That'll be up to however you all want to do it.
That's a good one.
Sure.
Harry.
Amy, how did you see presenting this section of this
This is
agenda?
a school board study. We had left it up to the school board who coordinated with their consultants to be online.
Okay.
So that would be up to the chairman and the committee as to how you want to do it. But we have Ms. Kemp and Mr. Tyndale on the line, I believe.
That is
I
correct.
couldn't hear from
Yes,
you.
we're both here.
Okay. Well, Nilja, welcome. You're at the CFAC committee, and I'm going to turn it over in a moment to the chairman of the CFAC, Bill Benham. But I believe all the CFAC members have a copy of the study dated July 16th in their hands. And I know that you had asked that the county asked that the CFAC forward any questions to you ahead of time that they might have to help facilitate this. So if you want to start with any questions that you might have received ahead of time, Niljan?
We haven't received anything.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure, and then Mr. Benham, how you want to proceed through this?
All right, well, how does the committee want? Do you want to go through just a basic page by page and just say any questions, and if there's an introduction and methodology, those are basically understood. An inventory of what's existing in the school system and the service area and enrollment. And those are pretty non-controversial type of discussions when it comes to what this committee does. Enrollment figures projected and what it was, projecting out to 2020. We've got 5 year out. Facility service delivery. Explain that one a little bit. That's what your existing square footage is in your school system?
Correct, of what we typically build. So that's why it's titled up at the top. You're looking at page 6 of table 2.
Correct.
And the prototype school. So what we typically would build when we would build a new school of each of those types, elementary, middle, and high.
Okay. Is the school system still building standardized schools? For instance, is it an elementary school and the school would be the same one in Rubin Park? Is there a base design that saves money?
We do.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
we do.
The only exception to that might be if it's a rebuild where we have some existing
Yeah.
buildings that we need to keep, and therefore.
Well, that's understood. Yeah.
And
On
then
new
if it's a
construction.
K-8, then that would be a different.
Right. Okay. Cost components. Any questions here? I have a question on the cost component. I don't know if the land cost, here it is. You're using $75,000 an acre. Can I get, can you tell me what your sources were to pull, to derive that number?
What page is that?
Page 8.
For that, we looked at any recent purchases that the school board made, and they had like 2 recent purchases that averaged about 100,000. Actually 123,000, multiple ones, and then there's 2 that they are right now negotiating, that average about 100,000. Then we look at countywide vacant land sales of residential properties that are like large, similar size parcels that the school board would need. And that was like the sales between 2012 and 2015, and they range anywhere from 100 to 140,000.
Great.
And then, so based on all that, we kind of took the lower, a little bit less than, you know, what we see of the range basically, and used the 75,000 to be a little bit on the conservative side.
So basically 2 properties right now in negotiation, or what your, or 2 sales that you did have, or purchases, is your basis for the number, plus the potential purchases?
Can I ask you a question? The sales that they purchased, how large were those sales? Were they 1-acre properties, half-acre properties?
Those were smaller parcels. They are like a quarter of an acre to 4 acres.
Okay, when you buy land
And
that
then
way,
the
it's going
ones
to be
that they are
75,000
negotiating, one is at 35 acres, and then the other one's another small property.
School board needs somebody else to negotiate.
Wait, no, that's, no,
Say, guys,
they aren't paying 75,000 an acre. They are if they buy a house on a lot, it winds up being 75,000 an acre, but to use
Which
that.
we did over in Eustis
Oh,
Elementary.
okay, but that's-
We have bought parcels, but those did include a house on
But
those lots.
You're not gonna buy a school site assembling houses. That's only because you have a site there you're trying to
Right,
expand.
right.
All right, so to me, you need to be using a 5-acre site or 10 acres. You guys use 20s, right? 20s and 40s and 80s?
Yeah.
So you need to find a 20-acre site somewhere. You're never gonna pay 75,000 an acre unless you're, that's almost $2 a square foot. That's stuff you pay for on Highway 441 for commercial.
New York.
Yeah, well, anyway, I can't imagine you'd pay that price ever. If you're looking for a 20-acre parcel, it isn't on a highway.
Well, it's more than that, the property we're looking at down in the Four Corners, and it's off of the highway.
And this is, that site in 4 Corners is put a complete
35.
elementary school
That
on?
is to put a K-8.
A K-8 is a, what, a 20-acre site?
That's the 35 acre
That
site.
was
35, that's
35
a
acres.
35-acre site.
But it's vacant land already, you're not gonna
Well,
have to
it's
buy stuff.
vacant land, they're putting in the infrastructure, but it's a 1-lane road in and out. And we're paying top dollar because of it being down in the Four Corners.
That one was, I think, when we were doing the study, figure for that was about 100,000 per acre.
Well, we actually got it down to about 83,000 an acre.
Nice.
So the use of $75,000 an acre is within the realm of reason then?
I guess. It's a small part of the price anyway. It doesn't really affect the price as much as the building. But still,
All right, any other discussion on the land cost? Moving on. Cost components is relatively large. Any questions within this calculation? Because this is where the meat and potatoes is and how this number is derived. When you get to $9,324 for a single-family resident, this is pretty much the numbers that they're using to calculate that number. Any projections or uses in there that you feel are not reasonable or questionable?
it's unfortunate the home builders aren't here because they usually have a question or 2 or 3 or 4. Yeah, it is.
You're not using interest
somebody explain to me on, page 9, the existing permanent stations, there's a weighted average of 43,000. That's weighted on what?
I'm sorry, that's total for that row. It's the weighted average for the 144, so it's actually weighted average slash total, it should read. That 43 is like 18 plus 11 plus about 14, those three.
Is there a difference you've got, if the sales tax is defeated in November, what your calculation of what the impact fee would be?
Yes.
Does
We
this calculate,
calculated
the 9,324, we'll just stay on single-family residence. That's assuming that the sales tax passes, correct?
that is 9,324, yes, with sales tax.
Okay, without, what would it be?
9,390. There is not it increases tiny bit because the district is not using the sales tax for capacity expansion projects. It's being used primarily for rehab. So then the credit associated with the sales tax is pretty small.
If it were used for capacity expansion, how would it affect
The
the
only
number?
way the credit would increase and the fee would decrease significantly would be if they add more capacity projects. So right now, if they are funding it with capital mill versus sales tax, and they switch that, that's not going to make a big difference as long as the capacity projects that are programs are the same. If they start building a lot more because maybe they have more money, but they are able to do it, then there will be a bigger credit.
So let's say you target sales tax dollars towards this new capacity. What is the dollar for dollar, what is the impact of that? It just depends on what you call that dollar. It's gonna have to be spent anyway. You know what I'm saying, Jim?
Yeah, but I think the problem is that they really need it for other things than building because they've got like an 8-year-old bus fleet that should be 5-year average age. They're way behind on a lot of things.
Our technology, our busing,
That's where
our
all your
white
sales-
fleet, I mean, you wanna talk about being 10-plus years old and behind? I mean, the sales tax money, we can't take all that money and put towards new student stations, because the needs that we have are astronomical.
If I can advocate for schools.
Yeah, it's a three-legged stool.
What happened was the 2 mil money, which for years was what schools had to replenish infrastructure, buses, whatever, is now 1.5 mil money. The legislature cut it by 25%. That works out,
Twice.
well, twice, which is now a full 50. I'm sorry, it's 25% of the 2 mils is 1.5 mil. So anyway, it's now 1.5, which is 25% of what they were, less than what they were getting. They get 75% of what they used to get at 1.5 versus 2. And that's about, I think, $10 million a year, which is close to what the sales tax is generating for them. So basically, the sales tax has made up the difference of what the legislature has cut us, cut the schools, and they just need it to survive, really. So the impact fee money is for new growth, if there is some. We'll collect it and we'll build our schools. We haven't really found a viable option around doing impact fees, from what I can see.
In the last 15 years, has the school system used sales tax revenue to build new capacity? Very little is what I'm
Very
hearing.
little.
Very little.
Okay.
Because you
Why
figure
can't-
all of our high schools, not the new ones.
So I'm using the wrong drum.
Yes.
There is a relationship, more used towards new capacity, less than impact fees. That's all I'm getting at.
Bill, if I may, because the impact fees are restricted
Yes,
to
you,
new growth.
yeah, you use it all on
Harry
you.
talks about a three-legged stool all the time, and that's it. The sales tax becomes the renovation, remodeling, and at the moment, our 1.5 mil is virtually still going to debt.
Well, and all I'm
Old
saying,
debt.
some of these numbers that are used to compute this thing can be manipulated to either get you a higher impact fee or, you know what I'm saying, you can do it higher or lower in there, it depends on what you use in your decision making.
Tyndale Oliver has been doing these a long time. I think this is very supportable. Somebody were to
The
assume.
data is supportable,
Yeah, it's very supportable.
it's reasonably, like the
Right.
test on the acreage price, $75,000, listening to what I've heard, they default to a reasonable number and what you're having to purchase for these sites.
I have confidence in this group and their work, and I feel like, if Bruce went to lawsuit, it would stand up.
All right, where did we leave off? We've got the calculation through table, or through page 19, and the net impact cost per student. Any questions on that section?
Bill, what did you, 19?
Yeah, I'm running to 19, I believe everything else is filed under credit component. Any questions on credit component, excuse me? Jump too fast, the other sections. Cost component, not credit component. And the main section, that's page 15. Any questions on the credit component? Is this where we see the, where we're 65th out of 67? Is this like state money coming back at the system?
Oh,
No.
impact fee money has nothing to do with our funding for students.
Okay.
No, you're talking about another pot of money.
Operation.
Operating.
Any questions on this chart? All right. Let's go to page 19, net impact cost per student. So the cost per student station per year is $31,344, is that what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Okay. And then you gotta do the credits and then, okay, 28. With sales tax without. Student generation rate. Page 21. Has there been a trend anywhere, or is Lake County getting more and more families versus retirees?
Yes, we're expecting 650 new students
You
this
know where I'm going
fall.
with that?
But in the trend difference that we've seen in the student generation rate is that the single family has decreased slightly. Of course, we've seen that in other districts in the adjoining areas for the most part. But the other trend is the multifamily, and we think that this was certainly indicative of the Great Recession, that the multifamily multiplier actually picked up.
Cheaper housing.
As we assume as people, cheaper housing, lost their homes and so on, and made, and then of course we know that a number of multifamily units were built during that time. And of course, so the result is we've seen the multiplier in the multifamily tick up significantly.
But there was a trend for doing these, which does affect greatly the school impact fee because they don't collect them on the retirement communities. Is the balance there still about the same, or is it trending more toward a non-retirement atmosphere on a full housing basis in Lake County?
Because that's not part of the study, we can only surmise that from sort of the inverse. In other words, so the single family multiplier is coming down for producing children, and yet if so therefore we must be getting more retirement, or at least let me say homes without families, or without children.
Well, there's two major, what is it, sector projects in South Lake and all, are there any retirement areas in those, or are they all? You can anticipate, we don't collecting an impact.
So
fee and
none
all
of the
that.
retirement communities pay impact fees that would go to.
For the schools.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
You said, if I might, you said you're expecting a 600 increase in the student population this year? Is that across the county, or is that mostly in South Lake County?
It's across the county. Some areas, more than others.
The majority of increase would be South Lake, though.
Yeah. 'Cause I know we're not increasing that much up towards us by that, by even a portion of that.
Right, in fact, there have been areas of the county where the enrollments have reduced slightly.
And now let me ask you
Toward that
another
way.
question. Since I've been looking at the numbers, the estimated increase in student population has never really fulfilled itself at the end of the year when you show that, you know, we're expecting 600, but we only got 200 or 300 or that kind of an issue. Is that still the case? Do you over-predict population growth for a particular
Finally.
reason?
We don't do that, the state does it to start with.
Okay.
We've always done our own internal calculations and would much rather budget at the number we believe are gonna show up. Because if they don't show up, the state takes the funding back. So we don't wanna be in that position.
Right.
Well, and I'm glad Carol jumped in and said that, because Carol looks more at the operational side, I'm looking more at the capital side. And just as she said, we do internally projections, and we're usually within 99.5% of being accurate. But at the end of the day, we have to rely on the numbers the state gives us. We're bound to do that. However, what Carol and her staff have known to do on the operations side is to hold off, if you will, from the table, knowing that if we don't get those numbers, she has to turn that money back into the state. So holds that back until we're sure of those numbers that we get on the operational side. On the capital side, we update our projections every year, but we're doing at least a 5-year lookout, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year looking out.
I don't know how you do that in Lake County, 15 years, but.
Well, and that's why we update it every year for just what you said, because what in demographics, what is the determinant is the most recent history. So if your most recent history is showing little to no growth, then you're going to show your growth coming down. Well, intuitively, we know that while during the recession, we might show projections of growth coming down, we know that once the economy improves, that growth rate would come up again. Therefore, each year, we take that snapshot based on the most reliable past data that we have to project to the future.
On a dollar value, the new assessments that Kerry Baker came up with this year, what kind of increases in dollars did they give you?
For the state budget,
No, for ad valorem's or the trim monies that you all receive. Did the assessments give you more money for that?
they actually lowered our tax rate again.
Oh, they did?
Yes, the school
Because
district's
I know
tax
every
rate.
city has
Yeah, we're down.
We're down.
increased dollars.
No, again, elections, our school board members' hands are so tied when it comes to some of this, and unfortunately, that is something that is, anytime I have the opportunity in public to make this statement, I do. This is all set by the legislature, and the school board has absolutely no control over it. They tell us what the millage rate will be.
No, I understand that, but
And
I'm
they've lowered
saying
it again.
on an individual's trim notices,
Yes,
I don't ever see my figures going down.
because ours is only 2 lines of multiple lines on your trim notice. You've got 2 school lines. One is
Right.
our operating, one is our capital.
Right.
1.5 is a flat calculation that's set by statute. The other is what has varied. That has gone down again.
But
So if
those
you took-
numbers are based on the assessment of the property,
Yes, sir,
and every assessment has gone up.
and we have no control over that.
They'll adjust their.
The
budget.
millage
You're
goes down.
absolutely right. The
State.
millage rate is what has
They
been.
did like a rollback.
What is the preliminary increase in property values in the county? Do you know yet?
It was like
Are you
6%,
at 5%?
5.5%.
Because you've had some flat years here or negative years, I believe.
It started to come back.
So,
Until
you know,
last
that's
year.
encouraging.
Until last year.
And my question, of course, was this mix between retirement communities and standardized communities that do pay impact fees. I think it's a major thing to keep your eye on, because most of the communities now that I'm seeing are not retirement communities, the major ones. I'm sure there's still some being put in. Is that what you're seeing in your planning and zoning? Most of your apps are,
retirement communities?
most of your apps are not, they're just regular communities.
Not in market.
Yeah, the market here is single family with kids in them that wouldn't pay this fee. That's, okay. All right, any other questions on the student generation rates? And there's the calculation of the impact fee.
right now, the impact fee itself is the same. We just provided as an alternative if they wanted to split it. It's mobile home on a single lot has a higher impact than mobile home park from, as far as student generation.
You can see that on
So we
page
just wanted to
23.
show that for informational purposes, if the county, county can decide to keep it together or not.
And whose discretion is that?
I believe it's the county's discretion.
So what this is saying is that if I've got a mobile home on a 5-acre parcel, it's more inclined to have students in it than not. Is that what I'm saying?
If it's a mobile home, not in a mobile home
The
park.
fee is higher lower in a park versus on a 5-acre parcel.
So I think they're saying there's less in a park than there is in a.
There's less children than
Right.
the movie
Yeah.
generator.
Per
Yeah.
unit.
Park, okay.
Fewer students per unit in a park than a mobile home on a single lot, which kind of almost like functions like more like single family, but it's not quite as high, so.
So for the purpose of the final fee that they're suggesting, they've just put it together, but should the county commission want to separate those out, that information's there.
Right.
Is there an impact fee charged if they move a mobile home into a park with rented land instead of owning the land?
I think
The
That would be a
mobile home
county
parks are charged per lot.
Okay.
And if they have a lot that's been vacant for longer than 6 years, then they are recharged the fee. So if they're just replacing one, then no, but if they've had a lot that's been sitting and then they're pulling a new one on that they're gonna rent, then yes, they pay that fee.
I buy 5 acres with a mobile home on it and decide to build a house, I get charged the difference. I mean, I can have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath mobile home versus a block home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Is it a wash or do I have a surcharge?
I believe it's based on the impact, if it's the same square footage, bedrooms, that type, it depends on how long the mobile home's been there, and what they paid in the
Well,
past.
that's a good question. I mean, to me, it would be, is significantly different. Like I'm talking about, what, $2,500?
Yeah, I thought we talked before, if you put a mobile home and you upgrade it to side built, you would charge the difference.
You are.
It's an automatic when you pull the permit.
Correct.
Are we paying the fee when we pull the permit or when we get the CO?
Full permit.
You have a choice, but for the most part, you pay it up permit.
Okay.
You can pay it at CO, that was one of the impact fee ordinance changes. that was-
We had that discussion at one time, too, I think.
Right, you can, but the contractor then becomes responsible for it.
Okay.
So if the homeowner doesn't pay it at the end of the day, the
You've been
contractor
protected,
pays it.
but you may get it before. Okay. All right. Any other questions on page 23? 24, school impact fee schedule comparison. On this chart. So now,
So Niljan, just so you know, we're on page 25, looking at table 11.
Okay.
Martin County, single family impact fee, $4,555, and adopted a fee of $55.67. How does that happen? It went over 100%.
Orange County actually is 100%,
Got it.
not 20 low. Yeah,
Niljan, looking at Martin County, the question is,
Mark,
why is it showing that the single family rate at 100% is $4,555?
that's because they indexed it since then. The study calculated, like study was done in '06,
Oh.
and the study itself calculated 4,600 or whatever, 4,555, and then since then they indexed it.
So it has index increase, automatic increases.
Right.
We got built-in increases.
That's what she's saying. Or if the index indicates it could be a decrease, correct?
it could be increase or decrease, and they can, it may not be automatic, they may just calculate every year and decide whether they're gonna apply it or not.
Okay.
But, yeah.
That's what we had talked about before, doing it based on the indexes, what it is.
Yeah. The last approved study, fee was $10,292. Of course, now this new study's come out with $9,324. What do you attribute the reduction in calculation to mostly?
In the single family, primarily the student generation rate decreasing.
Okay.
And remember, that's where I said the single-family generate multiplier or student generation rate is decreased. And that leads to that fee going down for single-family, but the multifamily multiplier has increased, and thus you see an increase suggested in the multifamily impact fee.
Is that trend going to continue, you think, or not?
I don't think so. I'm wondering though, I'm thinking that that may have been something that occurred during the recession. I think seems like we're doing an impact fee every couple of years. And as we do another impact fee, of course, looking at demographics, multipliers, or whatever you want to call it, would be something that we should do to see how that's panning out. I think that as the economy improves, we'll see the single-family rate pick up, and we'll see the multifamily start decreasing. Well, I think they'll start going back to what we've seen them do before.
Okay. Any questions on table 11? Go into the appendices. Questions? Appendix A. How many new schools do you think you're going to need in the next 5 years?
So I want to say
You do, no, I mean, not new stations in an existing school. How many new construction, new sites you're going to need? You're looking at 2 or 3 or 4?
We're looking at 4 or 5.
Okay. And in those, now, I know you do a lot of times, when you're negotiating with a developer of 10,000 homes, let's say, you get them to donate or give to the school system the sites for land sites at 75,000 an acre. How does that impact this impact fee?
Well, but you know what, that is a question,
Yeah.
but it doesn't count all of the pre-approved lots throughout Lake County.
I'm talking
Yeah.
just in this negotiation with this development site, and they're gonna donate and build the high school and the elementary school. How does that affect this number?
They don't usually build them.
They're not gonna build the school, they'll donate, the idea is that they will donate the land.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mary.
In our past study with Mr. Young, one of the things, or if it wasn't the last study, one of the studies he did, one of the things he had difficulty with is coming up with a property figure that was anything significant, because we had a lot of land donated, just as you're suggesting. And therefore, the credit or the amount that he could credit for the cost was very minimal, and thus it influenced the impact fee. Now, if that's your question.
And one of the problems with that is,
They're gonna get the developer's gonna get a credit back, and I don't know who calculates that credit within, the county probably does it when they're pulling the permit or negotiating this thing.
Yeah, typically there is a tracking mechanism that calculates the impact fee credits each developer would get because of donations, and then as they build the unit, they don't pay the impact fee because it's sort of prepaid.
Here in Ilgen, it's been done different ways. I know in the past, it's been a number of years that I believe we've had a site donated to us, but it's a negotiated item between the board and that developer. So there have been times when no credit's been given, and that's what the developers accepted. There's been times when it's been partial, along with some cash, and there's been times when it's been negotiated to where their overall impact fee burden significantly because of the donation of land. So it's been done multiple ways, but in any time in the past so far, it's been agreement between the school board, the developer, and the county would also have to agree to that as well. Well, and if it's in the city, that's the city.
Any other questions along these lines? I'm still a little bit, it sounds like it's done at a table when they go to talk about the community being developed and who's gonna get what, how do you negotiate what this impact is gonna be. And it varies site to site, it sounds like.
It does, and in fact, if the developer wanted to talk about constructing the building, then even more so, it would be a discussion of looking at credits then based on land values and building values and so on.
Because when you talk about land value, are you gonna use the number that he paid for the land, or are you gonna plug in what the study has for land?
That's usually a negotiated item, and usually, and in my experiences in the past, in some districts, it's been based on raw land, some it's been based on raw land plus the cost of the infrastructure to support that school site.
Okay.
Have we built schools on donated land?
Sawgrass Bay.
Mineola High School, Sawgrass Bay. Okay.
And it's trending towards going that way. I mean, in order to get the
That was
approvals,
15 years ago. Okay.
in order to get their approvals, they're gonna have to rectify all these problems that are created by building all those homes and transportation, parks, all those issues gotta be brought to the table.
Well, I know years ago, they used to put it in the fire stations too.
Okay, all right. Annex B, supplemental building and land cost information. And there, we had that discussion already. Any other? All the costs associated with construction. Construction cost analysis, B1, B2, construction cost analysis, other Florida jurisdictions. How do we average into the county? Is it represented in here compared to other counties?
Yeah, yeah, the highlighted, rows is Lake County Schools. And, it's really very close, like the numbers we use for our estimates are very close to the averages of everybody here. On the elementary side, you had one elementary school, the most recent one was that Sorrento Elementary, that was still for about $170. I think it was a reconstruction, but, and the average is 151, so we just we also looked at the insurance values of the schools, so we end up using 155, so compared to 170, it's a little bit on the conservative side, but we felt that there was only one sample, so that's probably better. And then middle schools is 160, is pretty much right at the average of everybody else, and then high school, we only went up to 165 because the Lake Mineola High School was still about 160 or so, but the average of all the other jurisdictions is about 185.
Is this number trending up as there's more and more construction?
Oh, we will, yes. So we know that we got a good deal on Lake Mineola High
Oh,
School
we know we got a great deal on Lake Mineola High School.
when building it.
We added some upgrades because of the price.
Any other questions on per square foot cost, what we're paying versus other counties? How about B3, the architectural and civil design cost analysis? Our ratios look like they're within them or lower than most counties to compare to, it appears to be.
Per square foot cost for
The square foot cost, architectural cost, I mean, some are higher, some are lower. I'm sure we're doing our job and trying to make things competitive, not being exorbitantly mean, it's all, is it public bid per school? Every time you get an architectural bid, is it,
Oh, yes.
it's always a new, you don't have a, go to this guy, he's got the contract for 2 years. It's a, you know,
We have several under contract that are available. They bring presentations, and then it goes through the bid process.
and then you go to all, you gotta do competitive bid.
Yeah.
But if we're building the same schools, it should only be site-specific changes. I don't understand why, you know, what, $3 million, like Mineola, it should only be if we're building the same schools, which you said.
Well, no, Lake Mineola is a new prototype. We do not have another high school that looks like Lake Mineola.
Generally, you're
That's a
not
new
gonna get prototypes in the elementary, sometime, I mean, excuse me, in the high school.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can in the middle school, and where prototypes are usually more applicable is at the elementary level.
Okay.
And that's why I asked about that standardized
After-school, elementary,
instruction.
Lost Lake
Saves on
Elementary
these issues here.
are all built
And,
with the same prototype.
and actually, to your point, Chairman Bennett, for example, you probably already know this, but Mascot Elementary, Mineola Elementary, Grassy Lake Elementary, Sawgrass Bay Elementary, were all built with the same
And
prototype.
Sorrento.
Well, Sorrento is the same prototype, but then what we did is we looked at the design and saw ways that we could save some money. And so Sorrento is slightly different in order to save some money, but it's essentially the same design as well.
And buying 3, put them in 3 different schools at one time could save some money sometime,
And-
rather than one at a time.
And it did, I think, in fact, I think it was now Commissioner Connor that really pushed lowering that fee on those schools when they were designed, if I remember correctly.
Site development cost analysis, still have that, that's the same type of thing. How can it be 0? Maybe it is 0 basically. That's Sorrento Elementary. That's B4 table. Another 0 in Walton Senior School. It's so insignificant of a number, it's 0, you know.
I'll take cash for this.
It's an insignificant number compared to $15 million is what it is.
I know that's that school is located on that property that we bought from the county, so it's co-located with the park. I'm not sure that helps to lower that, I don't know.
I think it was a better piece of property that not much had to be done to it.
I think that's right. I think we had to run some water sewer lines there, but other than that,
The infrastructure was better.
There's
yeah,
pretty much
I think it
there.
was.
Table B5, any questions? Well, that's the study. Overall discussion.
I move that we accept the study.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve the Trimble Oliver study dated July 16, 2015. Any discussions? Any uncomfortable feelings as to what this study has in it? We beat it to death enough to where our comfort level and our recommendation. Anybody? Seeing none, I call for the vote. All in favor of accepting this report, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now what happens?
Mr. Chairman,
Before we go to the county commission for consideration?
point of clarification.
Go ahead.
We have a different impact fee adopted right now.
Okay.
Is the CFAC's intent to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners to amend the ordinance to reflect the amount that's in the study?
Yes.
Hold on. Well, that old amount is from an older study.
Right.
That was done 3 years ago, I believe. That's with the
It was
$10,000.
done in 2011.
Yeah, the amount that that the
And-
county approved was 75%.
And the commission approved 75% of